AITA for refusing to support my son's pregnant girlfriend until she takes a paternity test?
I am not op. Posted by you, Mabamil on R. Am I the asshole? Mood spoiler. Happy ending. Less than. Original. Update. My son, 24M, and his girlfriend, 24F, have only been together for 6 months. And she is apparently 4 months pregnant with his baby. They have actually been friends since high school. And so my husband and I have known her for a few years as well.
She is a lovely girl, but honestly she is not someone I had hoped would be the mother to my first grandchild. First of all, she is a recovering drug addict and alcoholic, and while she says she has been clean for 3 years, a relapse is always possible. She only finished high school with her GED, and she now works as a waitress full-time. Her parents died years ago, so she is largely on her own. Our family is considerably better off, and my son is joining his father's business, meaning his salary will be quite high and will only continue to grow. Since my son first told us she is pregnant, it can't escape my mind that he may not really be the father, and that she picked him out of potential others because he would be the best in terms of support.
My son is pushing us to help her with some of her pregnancy expenses, and I told him we would under the condition that she get a paternity test first. He completely blew up at that, accusing us of disliking her, untrue, and not wanting to be grandparents, also untrue. He says he loves her and trusts her and that he can't wait to meet his baby. I get that, but I think he's being idealistic. If he wants our support, we want a paternity test first. If the baby is truly his, then we would be happy to welcome her into our family and we would be happy to help her out. AITA? Edit. There are 7K replies to this post, and over 200 private messages in my inbox that I can't reply to. It's a pretty even mix of UTA and NTA, so clearly the only thing everyone can agree with is that it's complicated. I've gotten messages to kill myself, I've gotten messages calling my son an idiot, and I have gotten messages from the MGTOW subreddit telling me that the girlfriend is clearly a lying sociopath. I have also gotten a lot of messages from men who found out their child wasn't theirs after several years, who wish they had found out sooner. It's a lot to read, and a lot to think about. Many people have called out my attitude towards this girl, and I'll be honest, it is making me think. Update. I received a message asking for an update, so here we go.
After my original Reddit post, I talked to my son and asked him what kind of financial help he had in mind. According to him, since she does not have insurance, many of her medical costs were adding up, and he wanted to help her with those. A lot of people asked me why my adult son was reliant on us. But to us that is not unusual. He is a recent graduate, and while he will be making a decent salary soon, he has just entered the workforce and does not have much in the way of savings. Plus, our family has always believed in helping each other out. If my daughter was pregnant, we would no doubt help her. I expressed my desire for the paternity test, for his benefit, but he would not budge on that. I tried to warn him of the countless stories of fathers duped into parenting children that weren't his, but he was certain. A couple weeks later, his girlfriend actually reached out to me herself. We met up, and she told me she was embarrassed he had asked for financial help on her behalf, as she did not want to take any assistance. This surprised me, as I assumed she was the one pushing for the money. She was uncomfortable with the paternity test idea, but said she would look into it if it bridged the peace between me and my son. With COVID, the paternity test never ended up happening. It just wasn't a priority. Over the past few months I have been talking with them more and more. And my husband and I bought them a substantial gift for their new home as a gesture of apology and goodwill. We did offer financial help, but my son refused it. By the time the baby was born, I had gotten to know his girlfriend better and was warming up to her joining our family. She truly is a delightful young woman, more so than I gave her credit for. The baby was born 7 weeks ago. It's a boy. And my son is absolutely thrilled. I have not gotten to meet him yet, but I have gotten to see him over video chat and in photos. He looks like my son. It's not an exact resemblance, but I can see my son in this little boy's face. Enough that paternity doubts are firmly in the back of my mind. Truthfully, I have fallen in love with this little boy. And watching my son grow into becoming a father has been the proudest thing in my life. If I had missed this, I would have never forgiven myself.
What a nice update.
Ironically, it sounds like the son only asked the parents for money because they had spoiled him. Somewhat so, completely panicked at having to budget and downsize to prepare for the baby. Whereas all the things Oop was looking down on his GF for her full-time job as a waitress. Becoming sober were the things that gave her skills to take this in her stride. I'm glad Every talked it instead of burning bridges. And Oop realized they were wrong about the girl's character and gave an apology gift. I am wondering how the monetary issue got resolved though. Sounds like the son never accepts financial help yet had claimed to need it then. Even against her wishes. I feel awful for feeling this way, but the whole, my son is joining his father's company and will be making a good salary, and all the classist remarks she makes about the girl just really makes me not really care about her situation. Prenatal paternity tests here are $1,600. After the baby is born it's $199. I see a lot of people acting like these non-invasive tests are NBD, but that's a lot of money. I know these numbers because we were picking up takeout next to a test site and I was curious. Also, your son is concerned he can do his own test. It's incredibly not your business. Glad she came around and gave enough self-reflection to give the young lady a chance. Although I don't think she was completely out of line to bring up a paternity test. Hoping they all live happily ever after heart. Wow. They were completely judgmental about this girl before they even had the full story. She's poor. She's a recovering addict. She only has a GED. She's a waitress. She's probably a gold digger. They really wanted to hate her and were just looking for excuses. Then when called on it they said, "We don't hate her." Really sounds like you do. Whereas I read it and am like, wow. Her parents are both dead. She's had a hard life. She's a recovering addict, which shows willpower and an ability to reflect on her mistakes. She has a GED and that's really cool. She even works. And waitressing is really hard work. She sounds like she's had problems in her past, but is doing everything she can to better herself. That's a plus in my book. Yeah, getting pregnant after only dating for a few months could be a red flag. But she didn't get pregnant without their son's enthusiastic involvement. He showed poor judgment in not using contraception after only dating the girl for a little while. But that's not the parents' main concern. And now that the child has been born and looks like the son, everything is perfectly okay in their books. I don't like OOP's judgmental tone, but I also don't think a request for a paternity test is unreasonable when her son asked for significant financial support. If they owned a business, they could have offered her a job there with more pay and stability with benefits, so it wasn't a handout but more a leg up. The thing that stood out to me was the GF met and refused their help. Then again later the couple refused financial assistance. I am biased, but my wife and I refused my very well-off parents' financial assistance even when we were struggling because my mother was so judgmental about my wife who came from a much poorer family. It was just not worth the strings attached. It makes me wonder if there is something happening here like that. I wish my parents bought me a house the time they apologized to me for something. Edit. I apparently can't read. Thanks everyone for pointing out, they said, for their new home. Babies don't look like anything. I always find it absurd that people put such stock into what their freshly born baby looks like. You'll hear about guys that take one look at their baby and start screaming about cheating. Bruh, that kid isn't going to look like anyone until it has hair and an actual face. Accusing us of disliking her. Untrue. And not wanting to he grandparents. Also untrue. Quote, "Oh, they disliked alright." So instead of applauding the GF for 3 years clean, she's going to keep on judging her for a potential relapse. It's not a surprising attitude, but it still sucks. The mother-in-law of my daughter also wanted a paternity test. She got it. It of course was her son's, and she never got to meet her grandchild cause of pushing the paternity test.
In recovery for 3 years and she still judges her? Jeez.
If they're in the USA, she would have gotten Medicaid. And so would the baby. They have easier requirements for pregnant women. Just putting that out there in case anyone winds up needing to know that. He looks like my son. It's not an exact resemblance, but I can see my son in this little boy's face. All 7-week-olds look like grumpy potatoes. Seeing a parent's features in them is usually just wishful thinking. Unless it's something wild and specific like an extra finger. Quote, "Honestly, she is not someone I had hoped to be the mother to my first grandchild." Does this strike anyone else as kinda creepy and really entitled? Like, they've planned out who their son was gonna marry, have kids with in their head, and don't like that the real person doesn't live up to their imaginary expectations? Gives off helicopter mom vibes. NGL. She only finished high school with her GED, and she now works as a waitress full-time. Her parents died years ago, so she is largely on her own. My son is pushing us to help her with some of her pregnancy expenses. This is a story about how abusive the American healthcare system is to the working poor, and how right now every poor state in the country is doubling down on making life excruciatingly hard for low-wage working women who get pregnant and can't afford it. The solution is to pay a living wage and universal healthcare insurance. This woman isn't a gold digger. She's a human being trying to survive.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.